everybody. It's Mrs. Gluck. How are you? I have a story to share with you, and it will also give you another opportunity to go outside and try to do a little project after you finish the story, collecting items that make you use your sense of hearing, your sense of seeing, your sense of smelling, not tasting so much, but hearing too. So we're going to work with those senses in this story. I want you to be paying attention to how many senses are used in this story. I hope you love it. I know that I loved it. And so I look forward to sharing that with you. So hold on. Mrs. Gluck's going to get to the right place and we're going to start our story. This book is called Piece by Piece. And I already read a little. I've read it before and I had a little trouble with it, so now it's being a little bit naughty. It doesn't like to go back to the beginning a lot of times. I don't know why. So here we go. Piece by Piece. Written by Stephanie Shaw, illustrated by Sylvie Dagnault. Once upon a time, a weaver tucked a memory into her collection basket. All day she gathered them up, the crunch of leaves, the springiness of moss, the leap and splash of a fish. So a weaver is somebody who makes cloth. And it looks like she's making cloth with things from nature. At night she wove the day's bounty into cloth. It was rich, exquisite, and unique. This is called a loom that she's weaving. Tell us, asked her children. Tell us where this came from. The weaver held a piece of fabric to her nose. Ah, she smiled, the sweetness of a puppy. Maybe she put a little puppy fur into her fabric. What do you think? What else? Asked the kids. The breath of a hot air balloon as it floats against a morning sky, and the squish of mud between your toes. The weaver began to sew piece by piece. Every now and then the children played among the bolts of cloth and asked, Tell us about this one. And of course she did. When the garment was finished, she laid it in a box. The bodice was a sparkle of starlight, with the skirt full as a spring meadow. Along the edge was lace like the foam of an ocean wave. Tucked in the folds of the gown were treasures, some dragon scales, a pirate's sash, and the red flash of a blackbird's wing. The weaver closed her eyes. She dreamed of all she could buy for her children with the money the dress would bring. Shoes of soft leather, loaves of thickly braided bread, sweet crisp apples, and paper bags of warm roasted nuts. In the village the next day, she held the dress against her so a shopkeeper could see it. What's this? The shopkeeper asked, pointing to the shimmering top. It's starlight and candle glow. I could never sell this, he replied. What absolute nonsense! I suggest you remove that part. He's not very friendly, is he? So the weaver returned home. She gently snipped at the threads that held the garment together. Piece by piece, pale and shimmering cloth fell to the floor. When the weaver returned to the shop, the shopkeeper frowned. What's all this? He asked, pointing to the skirt held before him. A day when gentle breezes sway the tall grass and wildflowers, she answered. Ugh, that's much too full, much too much, the shopkeeper's wife chimed in. And what about that flounce at the edge? The kiss of the sea as it reaches the shore. Well, we can't have any kissing, said the shopkeeper. That needs to go. So the weaver returned home again. The children watched as piece by piece an indigo night fell to the floor, the coo of a dove, the juiciness of a tangerine, a bit of coral from a tropical reef, the glint of a saber. A saber is kind of like a sword. The scent of chocolate and cinnamons. I've done as he asked, the weaver said to herself. She slowly walked to the shop. The children ran ahead to the village fair, carrying a mysterious package. Now, what have you brought us? The shopkeeper peered over his glasses, and his wife scowled. You know what a scowl looks like? It's like the wishes from a dandelion on a summer's day, said the weaver. The whisper of fog rising from a lake, frost caught on a spider's web. He held the gauzy fabric up to the light. Bah, he replied. Too small, too flimsy. No one has any use for this. But the weaver turned away and used it to catch her tears. Why do you think she's crying? The man's very critical, yes? As she left the shop, the children ran to her. Come and see what we made. At the village fair, there were displays of golden honey, bunches of lavender, and pyramids of brilliant fruits and vegetables. Through row after row and stall after stall, the children ran, pulling the weaver along. This is lavender. It's a type of flower that smells really, really good. It's supposed to be relaxing. Finally, they came to a crowd of people gathered around a quilt hanging between the two trees. Rich, said a woman. Exquisite, said another. Unique, said a third. The shopkeeper, hearing the cheers from the square, pushed through the crowd. He did not bother to look at the quilt. His greedy eyes were on the people, asking where they might buy something so beautiful for themselves. Let's see, can we see the weaver? There's the weaver. And does any of that look familiar to you? Do you remember seeing that before? He turned to the weaver and said, You must sell this to me, and as many more as you can weave. We'll make a fortune selling them from my shop. The weaver touched each piece of the quilt, the blueness of a robin's egg, a meringue of sky. She was sure she caught sight of a dragon's scale. Never, she whispered. That night the weaver smoothed the new quilt as she tucked the children into bed. Tell us, they said. The weaver moved her hand slowly across the pieces. She stopped when she came to one as soft as a pony's nose. Once upon a time, she said. Look at this. So what did that weaver do? Once upon a time, she turned her business into making clothing to making quilts. And there's a little bit of an informational section here that talks about how people used to make quilts when they could not afford to throw things away once they were worn out. So people used scraps of old blankets, clothing, and feed sacks, and they used them to make beautiful quilts. I've also seen some other quilting ideas. I think I'll try to send some to you in my next connections with you. I'll let you see a quilt that my neighbor made for my mom that includes lots of pieces of fabric that have her interests like piano playing and eating lobster and all kinds of things. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. Enjoy the beautiful sunshine if you can. Get out when it's beautiful out and maybe start collecting some items you might like to weave into a project that's fun. Mrs. Gluck will show you how to do it in another video. Okay, have a great day. Bye-bye.